Jesus suffered unjust harms at the hands of careless people. And yet there is no cry for justice from Jesus. Instead, we see the method Jesus taught us in Matthew 5. But I say to you, love your enemies. Bless them that curse you. Do good to them that hate you. And pray for them that despitefully use you and persecute you. But I've discovered, watch this, one of the primary reasons why relationships and families and friends break down and break up is because somewhere, at some time, somebody did something that was just plain wrong. You didn't deserve it. It wasn't warranted. It was hurtful, unjustifiable, upsetting, and unkind. And because it was never resolved, it became the basis for the enemy to construct a stronghold of anger and bitterness and resentment inside somebody's heart. And so now that offense becomes your obstruction. Anger drives your agenda, and dislike keeps you distant. And so now you stop talking to each other and start talking at each other. And then you stop talking at each other and settle in to talk about each other. And the danger is if you don't deal with it, it intensifies to the point where your attitude begins to dictate your actions. To the degree that every time you see that person, you can't stand to be around them. And because you have no closure on the one thing they did wrong, now everything they do seems to be wrong. So now the marriage continues to dissolve. The relationship cascades to ruin. And the children are corrupted by the bitterness of the adults. And now I can't stand that person because you can't stand that person. Now I'm upset because you upset, and I don't even know what I'm upset about. Brothers and sisters, because forgiveness is a choice. You have to get to the point that you choose to apply God's meaning to what has happened in your life. Maybe you didn't get to choose what happened or where it happened or how it happened, but you do get to choose how to handle it when it happens. Because there are people listening to me right now who are living their lives based on how people have treated you and what they have said about you, what they did to you. Their actions against you have defined you. But can I persuade somebody listening to me today? Don't ever accept what happened in your life to define the meaning of your life. Because if you follow the metrics of what they did, you will forever be trapped and tormented by thoughts of anger, betrayal, and bitterness. And I wonder, on today, is there anybody listening to me that have come to the point in your life where you outline the harm, the hurts, and the injuries in your life from the perspective of God's purpose for your life? Because if you have, you need to know you don't have to be bitter another day. Because your future does not reside with them. Your future is with Him. Can I give you the whole method in a sentence? God forgave before there was ever an apology. Can I get a witness here? First, we see the method. But secondly, notice the message. I'm in verse 41 where it says, and we indeed are suffering justly for what we are receiving, what we deserve for our deeds. Here's the message. We need to reflect, because reflection is a teacher. It will teach you a lot about yourself, because brothers and sisters, we are quick to forget. Let me just get something straight right now. Everybody listening to me has made a mistake. You ain't been saved all your life. You ain't always dotted every I or crossed every T. There are some times in your life, whether you admit it or not, God should have struck you down. You should have been dead. There were some turns that you took, some things that you done, and some decisions that you made that took you to some far away places. But God gave you another chance, and another chance, and another chance to get your life right when he didn't have to. But watch this, when we are hurt, it's easy to forget about the forgiveness of God. And when we do, our world suddenly constricts and becomes very small. We tighten the boundaries of our lives until we are the centerpiece and the focus of every thought, every move, and every action. It's all about me and what they did to me. We set our bar on what we think is possible and not what is possible with God. And so therefore, because our bar is so low, we develop a I can't complex. And the only thing we have to say about forgiveness and forgiving is I can't. I can't let it go. I can't just drop it. I can't move forward. I can't stop being angry. I can't stand that person that broke my heart. I just can't. And so consequently, what you've ultimately done is allowed your problem to become a condition where you eventually develop a attitude of bitterness and hostility, where you paralyze your own progress because of your uncontrolled, unresolved anger and hostility. So we turn on each other instead of to each other. Brothers and sisters, watch this. Unforgiveness is a dangerous vacation destination. You might go there, but you don't want to stay there long. Reflection is a teacher, but reflection is also a reminder. It reminds us that the God we serve is a God of grace and a God of mercy. Grace giving you what you don't deserve, and mercy holding back what you do deserve. Everybody has made a mistake. There are no perfect people listening to me today. And therefore, since all of us have struggled with sin and dealt with dysfunction in our lives, all of us can benefit from the suggestion to reflect on the fact that God has forgiven you. Because brothers and sisters, grudges are expensive. The late Gregory Kirby, in his book entitled Why Forgiveness Makes Sense, he argues from a theological and a practical point of view that you and I literally cannot afford to hold hurt in our heart. You see, theologically, he argues that we can't afford to hold a hurt in our hearts because Jesus instructs us to forgive, and you shall be forgiven. Now watch this. Recognize that as a conditional clause, meaning to get what comes on the end, you got to be willing to do what comes in the beginning. If you want God to forgive you, you got to be willing to forgive somebody else. Now, brothers and sisters, forgiveness does not necessarily mean reconciliation. Forgiveness does not always mean reunion, but forgiveness primarily means release. I release you from your participation in my pain. But then practically, we can't afford to hold a hurt in our hearts because at the end of the day, we only have a designated amount of energy. And we simply cannot afford to exert and spend energy on a hurt from the past if we hope to have enough strength to engage in the possibility of hope in our future. Brothers and sisters, because all of us have options when we're hurt. We can choose to repress the hurt, try to grin and bear it. But I've discovered when you swallow your feelings, when you try to cover your pain, your body keeps score. But then again, you can rehearse the hurt. You can go over it again and again in your mind. But hear God say to you from Isaiah, forget about what happened and don't keep going over old history. Because brothers and sisters, there's a difference between mourning and moaning. Mourning is legitimate grief that has a timetable. But moaning enables you to hold on to a hurt and have a pity party every week. You can rehearse the hurt or you can resent the hurt. And this is dangerous because it's natural when somebody has hurt you to want them to feel the pain you feel. But brothers and sisters, resentment costs you more than it's going to cost anybody else. You can resent it, but here's my suggestion. You can release it. Release that hurt to God. And brothers and sisters, watch this. God does not do what we do. God won't simply send you a Hallmark card saying, I'm thinking about you in this difficult time. But God is with you, standing for you, and if you give it to him, he's ready to heal you. Because if you're honest with yourself, the hurts that hurt us the most are the hurts that are out of our control. As my grandmama used to say, child, leave them in the hands of the Lord. Brothers and sisters, because forgiveness is a gift that you give to yourself. We see the method. Right. We see the message.
Reverend.
But as I close here now, take a look at the mind. For Jesus says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. This is a fulfillment of the prophecy in Isaiah 53, where Jesus made intercession for those who were guilty of putting him to death. And what Luke allows us to see is Christ is the pattern. Christ is the model of how we should forgive. For I heard John say in John chapter 8 that there was a woman that was caught in adultery. And Jesus said to the woman, where are your accusers? Has no man condemned you? She says, no, Lord, no man. And Jesus said to this woman, neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more. Brothers and sisters, you need to cleanse your heart. If there's any bitterness, if there's any hard feelings, and if there are any grudges in your life, make up your mind that before today is over, I'm going to leave those grudges at the altar. I don't care what they've done to you. I understand that it did hurt you. I know it went on for a long time, and I know your heart was broken, but you can never be right if both of you continue to go wrong. Cleanse your heart. But I hear you saying, good God from Zion, I want to do it, but how do I do it? Well, there's a song that goes like this: when your enemies assail and your heart begins to fail, don't forget that God in heaven, he answers prayer. He'll make a way and lead you safely through. Take your burden to the Lord and leave it there. Leave it there. Leave it there. Take your burdens to the Lord and leave it there. If you trust and never doubt, he will surely bring you out. Take your burdens to the Lord and leave them there. Hey, God, all right. that problem that I had, I couldn't seem to solve. I tried and I tried, but I kept getting deeper involved. So I turned it over to Jesus and I stopped worrying about it. And Jesus worked it out. Ain't God all right? I came to Jesus just as I was wounded, weary, worn, and sad, but I found in Him a resting place, and He has made me glad. Look at Jesus. For the joy that was set before Him, He endured the cross, despising the shame. Look at Jesus. For Jesus paid it all, and all to Him I owe. Sin had left a crimson stain, but He washed it white as snow. Look at Jesus. The one dark Friday on a hill far away, your sins and mine, a rugged cross on His shoulder, they hung Him high, so rest Him wide. He hung His head, and then He died. He died. But early Sunday morning, He got up with all power in His hand. God bless you. And God keep you. Is our prayer. Let's receive Pastor McDaniel. I don't know whether to have this on or have it off. There's going to be a lot of messages today because today is Good Friday. It's going to be a lot of messages on the 7 words of the Lord. But I guarantee you there won't be one better than that one. And forgiveness doesn't make sense. Amen. Forgiveness, I thought about it. To me, it makes sense what I needed. Right. But not when it's time for me to get it. Have you ever thought about it that way? You know, what I did, it wasn't as bad as you have blown it up. I don't even know why you feel the way you feel. That's when it makes sense for you to let go of what I've done for you, to you. But it doesn't make sense when all of a sudden it don't make sense when it's time for me to give it. Forgiveness is kind of unusual. We want to receive it. Our hands are open to receive it, but our hands are closed when it's time for us to give it. Be careful. But what also stifles forgiveness is when you get a group of unforgiving people who will encourage you to not let it go. Brothers and sisters, whatever you do, stay away from somebody who may be agreeing with you about your hurt. That is not what you need. You need somebody to say, you need somebody to continue to encourage you to forgive. Sooner or later, they're going to say, how many times? How many times should you forgive until you can't count it anymore? It's infinite. You're supposed to lose count of how often you need to forgive somebody. Jesus was hanging on Calvary's cross. As Reverend Gentry said, it didn't make sense, all of what he had to endure. But the Lord had to model it. The Lord had to model it because He first taught it. You know, we got teachers, including myself. We teach
forgiveness, but don't want to mind. Jesus taught, and in that Calvary, he said, Father, I need you to forgive me. Based on the tense of the verb, he kept saying, Father, forgive me. That was one of his themes, Father, forgive me. And then, as someone said, like a Philadelphia lawyer, not only did the Lord ask the Father to forgive him, he argued the case of the people who were hurt. He went into a lawyer mode. He said, Father, I'm going to tell you why you need to forgive me. They are ignorant of what they're doing. It was later on that Paul said they didn't know that they were crucifying the Lord of glory. Well, if we bring it back and we narrow it down, what about us? Good Friday is not Good Friday if you're still holding on to a grudge. If you're holding on to a grudge, Good Friday is just like every other old Friday. You have reduced it to where it has absolutely no spiritual meaning. If you hear, those of you that's here, and those of you who are looking in, I want you to bow your heads right now. And I want you to ask the Lord, who is it who's hurt you the most? Past history, recent history. Who is it that has hurt you the most? And when the Lord shows you that person, I want you to do what Jesus did. Forgive. 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 And then after you have, how do you know when you forgive? When you start acting, you gotta act like it. Amen. You gotta act like it. The Bible is very clear. Here's our rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Again, we all need it. We can't minister without it. So we have to make sure we practice what we preach. If you are listening to me right now, and you say, Pastor, I just can't do it. Pastor, I can't. Well, let me tell you why you can't. Because you probably have not met the forgiving Savior. When you know Jesus, he puts forgiveness in you. So if you can't do it, I want to introduce you to the forgiving Savior at Calvary's cross. Heads bowed. I want you to pray, Lord Jesus, I need you. I thank you for dying on that cross for my sin, one of which is an unforgiving sin. Thank you for forgiving my sin. Thank you for helping me forgive others. Maybe God a person you won't be. In Jesus' wonderful name. Amen. I want to say to those of you who are looking in, if you prayed that prayer, you ask Jesus to come into your life. Let me be the first one to tell you, you are having a Good Friday. That's what makes it a Good Friday. Good Friday shouldn't simply be a religious day. It should mean something. Amen. We should have the Lord Jesus Christ on our minds and in our heart. Amen. So let's thank the Lord. Let's give the Lord and let praise. Amen. hands, I praise. We thank God for a few of you such here that have made this Good Friday service what it is. Amen. We've had good praise, good word. Amen. I'm hesitant to say good prayer. It's really not such thing as good prayer. But since I'm a little rated, I'll say good praise, good word, good prayer. No, we need now some good gifts. Amen. Amen. We want to do that. Uh, Again, I continue to remind us that this was our revival weekend. And hopefully we've done the best that we can at the Paradise Baptist Church to give you, to make sure there was some word. There was some word on Wednesday night. There was some word on Thursday night. There was some word on Friday. So we have done the best that we can under the circumstances to make sure that the word has went out from the Paradise Baptist Church. And let me start also commend. I got to commend the Paradise Baptist Church family for how you are responding in the area of stewardship. If I can be honest with those of you who are looking in, many pastors, multiple pastors are in the midst of anxiety because they have the responsibility of leading God's church economically, but they're not at full force because the people are unable to attend, or either just a few here and there. So we want to thank the Paradise Baptist Church. A good friend of mine, Pastor George W. Banks, he continues to remind me. He says, Pastor Matt, he says, in the area of stewardship, the Paradise Baptist Church, there's some unusual people. He said, there's some unusual people. Amen. So we want to thank those of you. What I'm even excited about, some people who haven't been bringing the Lord's tithe, they are now doing it. And that's exciting. That's exciting. You do know that the Lord, Proverbs chapter 20 talks about that the Lord allows pain in our lives that cause us to change our way. You know what? Now, can I just be honest with you? You don't have to learn, you don't have to change your ways with pain. You can change your ways with the word. Amen. You know, I didn't always have to get a whooping to change my way. Sometimes I just did it because they told me. Amen. All right. So we want to pray about our giving. We're going to ask everyone, if you will, to give $100 as our resurrection service offering. We're still trying to make up a few things, but if we can get you to at least start there. For some, that's a start. For others, that's a finish. Amen. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for what we received. Pray that you would give us a spirit of being generous right now in Jesus' name. Amen. Those of you who are looking in, we ask that you would give an offering of that nature also. We ask you to do it with PayPal. We ask you to do it with Givelify. We ask you to do it with our credit or our debit card service. You can call the church. Amen. You can drop it by. We thank God for many members are mailing theirs in. Amen. And then we have some who just feel comfortable coming by and doing what we have coined a new phrase. It's called curbside giving. All you got to do is, if you drive up, we'll pick it up. They say amen. If you come by, hold on. If you come by, I'll come down. Say amen. All right. Let us get our gifts, and we want. Can I trust you all? Let's do it this way. We're going to give, and you all trust me to be a blessing to Reverend Brother Gentry. Amen. Amen. All right. Let us stand.